Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. If you can look up from your crosswords.
I'm done.
So today's first workshop is on what is a Bhagat or who is a Bhagat. And our theme for this camp, this retreat is Bhakta Ki Chaal Nirali. And I think a very fundamental question is who is a Bhagat? How does Gurmat define Bhagat, or how do we see what is Bhakti? And so this is going to be a very maybe a more serious, more academic talk than the others we've seen before. And the good thing is that everything is going to connect really well. At least I'll try to do that. We had the body workshop yesterday, which did a great job. Then we had Santbir really talking about the stories of the Bhagats, or stories of lifestyles of Sikhs who walk the Kanyo Tikhi Valoniki path. And then we had our position papers where we kind of evaluated where do we stand on issues. Then Ruben Palviji took us into a very deep personal reflection into how we are managing our own internal personal revolutions. And so this talk is going to be about Bhagats, and this is going to connect hopefully very well. And Santbir ji titled this Joyful Love, Bhagats and Bhakti. We will be tag teaming this one. And I'll try to put in jokes and activities so that it's not as boring as it sounds right now. So the first question is, who is a Bhagat? Can I get any answers from the audience?
From what I understand, a Bhagat is a person who has a complete and total devotion to God, while Guru or the Gurus, and they serve the humanity as Guru pleases.
So that's the end of the workshop. No, that's like a really, really good answer. But the English translation is devotee. And any other understanding of Bhagat?
The one who has a knowledge.
Okay. Yeah, so this is all connected. Let's go into a more academic word. So Professor Singh, he says the root word of Bhagat is Paj. So does anybody know what Paj means in Punjabi or vibrate? Vibrate. That's a good answer. But it's very interesting. If you look into what Professor Singh, he says Paj, it means Vandana, it means Seva Karna, Simran Karna. So sharing, doing selfless service, and Simran or remembering. And the full definition he gives is who share first and then eats, serves the world and never forgets the Creator from their mind is a Bhagat. So there's no mention of anything else other than this definition. And it's like remarkable because you can't hear me? Sorry. So this is a very different idea that we started with. Like when we were thinking what a Bhagat means, as we usually do, somebody who does Bhakti or who's like doing devotional service, the first thing that comes up is Vanchakna and Sansar di Seva Karna, say serving the world, and not forgetting the Creator while we are doing His work or her work. If you look at the Hindu scriptures, they talk about 9 types of bhakti. So you guys will wonder why I'm talking about Hindu stuff here, but Professor Singh wrote Hum Hindu Nahi, and he used this, so I think it's okay. That was one of the jokes I have in this presentation. You can laugh. Okay, that's enough. So the first one of type of bhakti is Sravan or Sarvan, which is listening. The second one is Kirtan, which we kind of all pretty much know, singing the praises. Simran is remembrance. Pad Sevan or Charan Sevan, serving the feet of your beloved. Arjan is to worship using sandalwood and flowers, so Arjan or Aarti, that's another type of how you do bhakti. Vandan is salutation or namaskar, or like when we take matha, we do dandot, that comes in Vandan. Shakya is friendship, how you treat your beloved as your friend. The 8th is Dasya, when you are a servant or a slave to Vaheguru. And the 9th is Atam Nivedan, to completely submit yourself. So this is now the Hindu version of how people do bhakti. But what does Gurbani tell us? So I went from a list to a nice, cute B that I drew. Thank you. And that's a hive, and it has a 9 qualities, and I spent a lot of time on this. It doesn't make any sense, but okay. Let's start with Shravan. So Shravan, as I said, is about listening, and Gurbani says that quote Karan Dijiye Prapritam Arpan Suniye Avinasi Ram. That I have a million ears so that I can hear the glorious praises of Vaheguru. Kirtan, and Kirtan is Anat Sukh Mangal Bane Ekhat Gun Gao Katha Kirtan Rag Naad Tun E Banyo Swav. So my life's purpose is to sing the Kirtan of the Lord's praises and listen to the vibration of the sound current of the Naam. This is in Gurbani, how we are interpreting, or how Gurbani's approach to Kirtan as a form of bhakti is. Simran. So har har kabhu na mane bisare iha uha sarab sukdata sagal kata pratipalya. You do not ever forget the Bible. Does anybody know who this is? Yeah, he's not here this time. Sorry, Gurbani's approach to bhakti. Shakya. So Shakya is friend. Tu mera sakha, tu hi mera meet, tu mera pritam, tum sangeet. You are my companion, you are my best friend. And that treating your subject of your devotion as your friend, that is the Shakya part of bhakti. And I'll give a special prize to somebody who knows why this is important today for us retreat goers. Think back approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, the Kunama?
Yes. Yar. So that Shabad was Yar, where it was talking about treating the beloved as a Yar, as your buddy. So that is that in that Shabad, this form of bhakti comes across, that you're doing bhakti in the form of Shakya. So again, the point of going through all these 9 things is not to say that this is we are Hindus or something, because it's obviously not that. Singh wrote this. But to actually, whenever we are reading Gurbani, when we are listening to Kirtan, we learn to identify what form. It's not just simply listening or just understanding the meaning of the shabad, but being able to classify or understand these things. So it is better organized in our mind. It helps us to remember Bani better. It helps us to if you're thinking of shabads about what should I sing, or what shabad will be appropriate in the situation. If we use this kind of organization system, which was based in during the times of the Gurus and the Bhagats, it is useful to do this exercise. So we'll be doing another activity which will help you reinforce this. Atam Nivedan is to submit yourself, your mind and soul, body completely. Dulagya das mari jiyo pind sab tera, kaho nanak sab teri odiyai koi naam na jana. So we sing this all the time, every day, live on. And again, just to learn to identify that the shabad we are singing, they have other contexts and connotations which we should understand. So, Jio Pind Sab Tera, that my mind and body and soul are all the values. So, this is Dandot Vandan. So, Prabji tu mere pran dhare, namaskar, Dandot Vandana, anek baar jamware. So, Dandot Vandana is to go, and with all humility and with all the respect you can give. That is a form of vandana or devotion. So dasya is form when you say that you are somebody's slave. That मैं खरीद और दास और तेरा, I am your slave. तू पारो ठाकुर को मिल. So the word for slave that is very common in Gurbani is das. Can anybody tell me another word for slave that's very common in Gurbani? No, I want somebody else. Gola, that's the word. Yeah. So every time you hear Lala, Gola or Gola means slave. So it's another form of saying, this is another form of doing bhakti, that we are slave to God. This is the most interesting one. Oh, sorry.
Gurmat and Phul are connected. Do you have?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, I didn't think about it.
I don't think so.
Call to mind. Ujjal, do you know?
What?
Okay, but good question. Keep these. We haven't prepared a lot, so. So this is about being a slave. So back, did I do this? Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, Arjuna. So this is the most common one we find. Whenever we think of Aarti or we think of the Indian tradition, we think about Guru Nanak Dev Ji going to. Why am I blanking out? Where did he go? Where did he go?
Jagannath Puri.
Jagannath Puri. That's it. Jagannath Puri is in Odisha. Jagannath Puri is in Odisha, on the eastern coast of India. So the way they do worship in Aarti is, they have a plate on which they put lamps and they put sandalwood. Sandalwood is a kind of wood which smells really, really nice. And Gurbani has a lot of examples of sandalwood being a substance that is able to give its fragrance to everything it touches. So it's kind of like a philosopher's stone or a sorcerer's stone. That any metal you touch, you make it gold. Sandalwood is similar, that anything it touches or anything you rub it against, it imparts its fragrance to it. So, what is the fragrance or what is the sandalwood that Guru Sahib is saying? He said, Tera naam kari channathya jeman ursa hoy. So, channathya is the sandalwood and my mind is the stone. So if you rub the sandalwood on my mind, then my mind will become fragrant. So rubbing your name on my mind will make it fragrant. So that is the example, that is the Sikh interpretation of what Archana is, not to actually use the sandalwood. The other thing that's common in Archana is saffron. So saffron is a powder. Is made from plants. It's colored.
Flower, it's very expensive.
It's very expensive. It's a very rare flower mixture thingy.
And its color is very, Bhagat stays. It's just casey, you can explain.
It's casey, that's what he said. For saffron, karni, kungu, jerale, kat, antar, puja. So kat is heart. So if that puja that we do externally, the prayers or the worship externally, if we want to do it in our heart, then we have to make our good deeds, karni is what we do, as the saffron, and that we should put in our hearts. Then that's how we do the aarti or the archan from our hearts. And puja kiche naam te aaye bin naave puj na ho. So without the name, without actually being connected with the eternal divine, we cannot really do any form of worship. And this is the last one, this is the ninth one. Haj charan kaval makrando vidmano antino manyayas. And we do this again in Nitnem every day. This is from Sola, that the lotus feet of the Vaheguru is, we are enticed by it. And day and night we thirst even for the dust of, the feet of the slaves of the saints of the Vaheguru. So this respect, or this is again a cultural thing that we, even the thirst or the requirement or the love for the dust of the people who serve the servants of Vaheguru, that's the level of humility, that's the level of love that we want to inculcate in ourselves. And now, I hope you guys remember all these 9. Has anybody finished your crossword? Oh wow, that's pretty good. So the crossword was about they call it Bhagats, right? Yeah. The Bhagats in Gurmat Sahib, and Santbir will take you through a journey about what are the qualities of a Bhagat and talk about some of those stories of those Bhagats and how they are relevant to us.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So, the historical Bhagats, the ones who are in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and also the mythological ones who are referenced in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, like Dhruv or Prahlad, those aren't the only people who can be Bhagats. Bhakti is an essential aspect or quality of Sikhi. But for the purposes of looking at the big sort of qualities of the Bhagats, we will be using some of the 15 or 13? 15. 13 Bhagats plus 2 sheikhs, 2 Sufis of Guru Granth Sahib Ji who were included in Guru Granth Sahib Ji by Guru Arjan Sahib Ji. Some of these paintings are not of the Bhagats, but I just pretended that they are. So, I couldn't find a good painting of Bhagat Bitpa, so I just found a picture of a Hindu king from the Middle Ages, and I'm like, who's gonna know, right? So now you know. So Bhagat Bitpa was a king, and when we say that a Bhagat is rare, this comes up in Bani a lot, in the theme Shabad as well, is that the Bhagat is in fact somebody that is virla, someone that is unique, because the path of Bhakti is not an easy one. And I think that Bhagat Bitpa's story really demonstrates that, because how often does a king and his wife, the queen, give up their kingdom for Bhakti? And so he realized that his wealth was holding him back from being able to connect to Vaiguru, and he gave up his wealth and turned his home into essentially what we would call like a community service space where people could come and eat, people could come and rest, and him and his wife spent the rest of their lives doing seva, using the wealth that they had accumulated and turning their palace into a place where they served people instead of a place where they were served. Now, if we look historically, a lot of the Bhagats are connected to Bhagat Ramanand, who has, I believe, 1 Shabad in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, right? And Bhagat, or 2? 1, right? Bhagat, 1, yeah. Bhagat Ramanand is said to be the teacher of Bhagat Kabir Ji, Bhagat Ravidas Ji, Bhagat Bitpa Ji, and several other, Bhagat Paramanand as well. Bhagat Ravidas is an important figure in the Hindu Bhakti movement, but Sikhs know another version of his story that is not recorded in Hindu texts because it runs counter to Brahmanism. And that's that Ramanand, through his teaching of Bhagat Kabir Ji, realized that his own belief in the caste system was holding him back as well. And Bhagat Ramanand gave up his own belief that being a Brahmin made him better than those below him in the caste system. And so it's an interesting idea of the student becoming the teacher. Bhagat Kabir Ji's greatness was, and his love of Vaiguru was so powerful that he in fact transformed his own teacher, Bhagat Ramanand. When Bhagat Bitpa had first gone to Bhagat Ramanand to learn Bhakti, that was one of the things that Bhagat Ramanand had said. He's like, you're too attached to all this wealth you have, how are you ever going to do real Bhakti? And so he went home and he's like, you know what, he's right. If I can't give up all of these trappings that I have, then how can I be a Bhagat? The key here is not, you can't be rich and be a Sikh. The key here is, can you give up your richness in an instant if you have to? And I think that's the question. The question is, can you be by Lakisha? Can you, when Guru Tegh Bahadurji's body is laying in the streets of Delhi, can you say, okay, I will sacrifice all of my wealth in order to do sanskar of Guru Sahibji's body? That's the question. What was the name of the Sikh who sacrificed all his wealth to do the sanskar of the Shote Sahibjad at Sirhind? Todarma. And what did Vizier Khan say? Anji?
No, that you have to give a platform of gold in order to donate gold so that that's the prayers we make.
Exactly. So Wazir Khan said, if anybody wants to do a funeral of the Shote Sahibzade, the land that they use, they have to put a coin of gold on. And as much land as they can cover with gold coins, they can do a funeral for the Sahibzade. Todaba was a very wealthy, we would call him a Sikh. He hadn't taken Amrit, but he was a lover of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And he gave up all of his wealth. Hanji.
The coins didn't have to be flush with the floor, they had to be standing.
Yes. And the Gurdwara Fatehgarh Sahib is essentially all of the wealth that he gave. That amount of space. And the Todamal's Haveli is still there. It's in ruins, unfortunately. It's not taken care of by the Panth. But if you go to Sarhan, you can see his Haveli. It's quite beautiful. He was a very wealthy man. He gave it all up for the Panth. So Bhagats also share their wealth. And this is a very lesser known Bhagat, so I thought I would use his example. And this is Bhagat Surdas. Now Bhagat Surdas has only one line in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. We won't get into the interesting aspect of that. That's another story for another day. But Bhagat Surdas was actually one of the only Bhagats that lived during the time of the Gurus. He lived during Guru Angad Sahib Ji's time. And also during Guru Angad Sahib Ji's time, in the later parts of his Gurgadli, Akbar became the Emperor of India, the Mughal Emperor Akbar. And Akbar is known to be a pretty good guy who was very religiously tolerant. And he had a unique idea of all of my local officials that are in charge of areas are super corrupt. So how about I make religious people in charge instead? So Surdas was a famous Bhagat in the area of, I think, Uttar Pradesh type area, east of Delhi. And he made him in charge of what we would call sort of smaller than a district, maybe look at the seal, of an area. And the problem with that was that Surdas was so in love with Vaiguru that everybody he saw Vaiguru in them. And he quickly bankrupted the whole state, the whole area. Because he did the Guru Nanak Sahib Ji Tera thing, where everyone who came to him, he just kept giving them the money from the government coffers. So he got fired from his job pretty quickly. But that's the nature of Bhagat Surdas, is that Bhagat Ji was more interested in serving people. And that idea of giving up what's yours and not really caring about sometimes even the consequences, that's a sign of Bhakti as well. There's an interesting example, I was reading it recently, preparing for something else, about Bhai Singh, who was shaheed in 1978. And remembering Bhai Menga Singh, Babbar brought it to my mind right now, because he, of course, was one of the students of Bhai Singh. And Bhai Singh used to love doing seva for Sikhs that would come to Amritsar. And they would stay at his tiny home, which was, I think, like 1 or 2 flights up, 3 flights up. And they didn't have water, running water upstairs. So he would spend like his days running up and down these steps with buckets full of water to give water to the Gursikhs that were staying at his house, who were visiting Amritsar to do darshan at Harmandir Sahib. And somebody asked him, like, why don't you just install like a proper pipe system so you don't have to spend all your day? And he's like, oh, I could do that. He goes, but where would the anand of doing seva come from then? Where would like the pleasure of like working hard to do seva fellow Gursikhs come from? So it's illogical sometimes. It's nonsensical. From the outside you would say, this is inefficient, what are you doing, man? Like, why? You could be using your time better. But then it doesn't, pyar doesn't make sense always. Is it important?
What's the answer to the question at the bottom?
Oh, okay, sorry. The answer, let Puneet read out. It's in the Shabad right there. This is a Shabad by Sheikh Farid, and he's talking about Bhakti. So that's a joke of Puneet Singh there. Sorry, I missed the joke.
It's a really bad joke. It's like, what did the Sheikh say about the Bhagat? So is Sheikh really talking about who is the Bhagat? Mathondi hori arna thanundi hori. The joke. Ha ha ha.
I don't know if that's a joke.
It's not a joke. That's like. It was funny at the time.
So I think we've all heard the story. It comes up twice in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and it comes up in Bhagavad Gita, I believe it does. And this is Bhagat Tralochan, and Bhagat Tralochan went to Bhagat Namdev, and what was Bhagat Namdev's job?
What's the job?
What was Bhagat Namdev's job? No, that's Bhagat Kabir Ji.
No, that's too
He's a cobbler, he makes pots. Not that kind of pot. And then Bhagat Tralochan comes to Bhagat Namdev one day and he's like, how are you working all of the time and still doing bhakti? How does that, this doesn't make any sense to me. So, but he said, do you want me to tell the Sakhi about the oil? This is a common Sakhi that's told. I don't know if it's associated with a specific person or not. I'm not sure. But there was a Bappa of some kind, and his top sort of person who respected him, and his top student who was always there, he once asked the Bappa, he goes, who's your greatest student? Who's your most awesome student? He goes, it's that guy out in the farms who's tilling his field. And the student was heartbroken. He's like, I'm here every day. I do your seva all the time. I'm in Divan all the time. I'm doing part all the time. And that guy barely even shows up, and he's working all day. How can you say that he is your greatest student? And the Baba goes, okay, here, take this bowl of oil. And he gives him a full bowl of oil filled to the top. He said, I want you to walk around the whole town? Village. And I don't want you to drop even one drop. And it was filled right to the brim, right up to the top. And he goes, I want you to make sure you don't drop even one drop. And he's like, okay. And he thinks, okay, if I can do this, it's going to prove that I'm the best student. So he starts walking, and he literally spends the whole day, the poor guy, from morning till night. And he comes back exhausted, and he hasn't dropped one drop. And his teacher says to him, did you drop any drops? He said, no, not even one drop. I was so careful, I promise, it's all there. And he goes, okay, can I ask, what were you thinking about? Were you thinking about me? Were you thinking about Bhakti? Were you thinking about Vaheguru while you were doing this? He's like, no, not at all. All I was thinking about all day was, I better not drop one drop of this. And he's like, that's the difference between you and the guy working in his fields. He spends all day working, but he's still thinking about me all day long. And you're not able to do that yet. You're not able to have your concentration, you know that part of our mind that's always talking or thinking about people or wondering where Mirpur got that awesome jacket from. It's pink and blue, I'm jealous of it a little, you know? Those types of things, they're going through our mind all the time that we can't sometimes even help. When Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Ek jit, je ek chimit ayo, kal pas ke beech na ayo. If you can remember, if you can make that part of your mind concentrate on Vaheguru for one chin, which is 1/164th of the blink of an eye, then you will never have to fall into the cycle of birth and death again. That's how powerful that moment is, according to Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So that's what concentration is. And in the Shabad we see that Bhagat Namdev Ji uses different examples, right? And you have this really beautiful example that I think we can all relate to, is the mother. And all of us who are taking care of kids, you can be doing other things in your house, but you're thinking about oh my God, where's the kid? What are they doing? Unless you're Mandeep and your kids are just terrified of you, but otherwise, I'm joking. He's a really good father. Or you can see, after the Rahal took, Anile Kwamba Paraile, the Shabad here, that when we're playing with our friends, I want us to think about when we're driving a car. And I sometimes am driving a car, putting in directions into my phone, talking to the kids, right? And I have a Shabad on, and I'm not really doing any of them, but I'm also concentrating on the road. It's if you can in that moment have an aspect of yourself connected to Vaheguru, that's the heart of Bhakti. Bhagats also have a gyan, they have an understanding of Sikhi. And this understanding is a very intimate understanding. And you see this come up in Kabirji's Bani a lot as well. And I really love this shab. I think a lot of us, this conversation, I think Puneet Singh calls it the knock-knock joke of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Because, I know it's not a joke, sorry. But you know, it's a knock-knock situation. Is Bhagat Namdev Ji is literally talking to Vaheguru in this very familiar way. And that familiarity that the Bhagats have with Vaheguru, it is from that place of friendship. And it's from that place of also knowing that Vaheguru's got their back, always. And there are specific shabdas, and you can understand them metaphorically if you want, or you can understand them literally, and we're not going to judge either way. But there are these instances that are discussed in Bani where the Bhagats were, from the shabdas it seems, literally saved from extremely precarious situations by Vaheguru's intervention. And one of them being when Bhagat Kabirji was thrown into the Ganga in chains. And he talks about this in his own Bani. You can understand it metaphorically, like I said, or literally, but the idea is still the same. And the idea is that your support is right there. I really like that slide of Rupapal Virji's yesterday, where like Guru Gobind Singh Ji had their back up to the person, like the Guru's got your back, the Guru supports you. And that's what Sikhi is about. Just another example here again. Bhagat Namdev was supposed to be crushed by the Hathi, right? And instead the Hathi started bowing down to Guru Sahib Ji. To Bhagat Ji, sorry. Bhagats also live in Bana. And so this is important because even when this is going on, Bhagat Namdev is like, sure, go ahead, crush me. No big deal. Like, it's not like he's like, oh God, no, or he's like, Vaheguru, come and save me, I'm going to be crushed to death by Hathis. And we see in Sheikh Farid's Bani, this like, total, just do whatever you want to me. Like, what's his one request? He says, if I die, just don't take my eyes so I can see Vaheguru, in this metaphorical sense, right? Like, I don't mind if you pick me apart and destroy me and kill me. I just want to see my beloved one last time. That's all I care about. So it's this complete surrendering to the will of Vaheguru Santbir. And here's someone, and I can't figure out when, maybe Uncle Ji can help with this question, when the Pant sort of gave this title to Bhagat Purna Singh Ji, but I believe he's like the only person in the post-Guruship period to have sort of spontaneously been given this title because of his intense devotion. And this is someone who, when he started, and of course you'll see tonight in the documentary, first people who had accounts of Manvirpur and Japanpur's documentary about Pingalwada, is that when Bhagat Ji started his seva, he was like literally operating with no, like he didn't have a building or anything, right? He's just on the side of the street, is that correct? And even in that, like he's taking care of people on the side of the street. He has no infrastructure, he's got no like 10-year plan or like fundraising goals or anything. He's just like, I see people that need help, I'm gonna help them. And that's it. And you can't do that type of work if you're not in love. It's not possible. If we tried to do that, we'd be like after a day, we'd be like, this sucks. Like, why isn't anybody helping us? The fund is so useless. We're doing such important work. Why don't people come and give us money and like support our organization? We would get really frustrated really quickly, right? I mean, we get frustrated if at home we like take the dishes out of the dishwasher, and if we're married, if the other person doesn't notice, or if we're and living with our parents don't notice. We're like, you know, we did that today, and you didn't even notice that like we did so much work. Like we expect rewards for things. When you do real seva, that's selfless seva, right? So, Puneet Singh, you're up. It's activity time. Don't stare into the black, soulless eyes for too long. They will capture your soul. Okay.
I have a question.
Handu.
Is there any accounts or register of a female Bhagat?
There is a female Bhagat in the Bhakti movement named Mirabai,
Oh.
but her body is not in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. The likely reason why it was not included is because there are two types of Bhagats. Ones that anthropomorphize God in the form of Hindu devte, like Krishna or Vishnu and so forth, and others who were more connected to the formless Vaiguru, like Nirgam Sarup. And so her body, or I don't know if body is, but her poetry is talking about Krishna in the physical form a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alright.
But there is a female person in the Bhakti movement.
Next Bhagat doesn't need to be labeled as Bhagat, so like Mata Bhagat.
Exactly. I mean, that was our point yesterday, is that these historical Bhagats, the 13 Satu Sheikhs of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, they're just good to know a few little short anecdotes about them, because they are an important part of our tradition, and they have become a part of the Sikh tradition, right? But in the end, really a Bhagat is something that we all need to be working towards, and if we're so lucky, we will meet Gursikhs who are Bhagats in our lifetime. I know I've met a few, and it's an inspiring experience.
So we're going to divide ourselves into 4 groups. So can we start counting? But you have to count in Punjabi. Just read the Shabad out so the rest of the groups can see.
Do it with the Saleh. Alright. राग सोही महला तीजा कर तीजा भक्त जना की हर जीव रखे जो जो रखदा आया राम सो भगत जो गुरमुख होवे होमे शब्द जलाया राम होमे शब्द जलाया मेरे हर पाया जिस दी साची बाणी सच्ची भगत कहे दिन राती गुरमुख आखो खानी भगतां की चाल सच्ची अत निर्मल नाम सच्चा मन पाया नानक भगत सो है दर साचै जिनी सच्चो सच कमाया.
So what did you find?
Okay, so the second line, so bhagat jo gurmukh hove, we think that Guru Sahib is basically like giving the definition according to Gurmat of what a bhagat is, and that's Gurmukh, the one who has his face towards the Guru, and also they burn away their ego using Shabad.
How does that relate to the qualities or the type of person?
So basically they don't have ego. Yeah. So they burn away their ego using Shabad.
It's your number 9.
Yeah. They're humble.
Anything else?
Anything else? The fourth line, Sachi Karandin Rati. Gurmukh Aho Khani, that true bhakti, they do like the true bhakti day and night, and they're
So the other thing that also relates to our theme was Bhagta ki Chal Sachi. And I think that could be considered another quality that Bhagats have, because their chal, as we know, is nirali, but here it's also saying it's sati. So that's like the pure, immaculate, true path that they actually follow. So that's it.
So you found no evidence of any other form of bhakti? Jivan was really close. Does anybody else have any other understanding of how this fits into that framework? No. So My idea would be when you're talking about Gurmukh or facing the Guru, it's very similar to doing Dandot, when you are giving yourself, laying your head, pointing yourself towards the Guru. So this is the imagery, this is the critical thing that you guys should be doing. Come on, man. And homage Shabad Jalayaram. So burning is also related with incense, right? Or the aarti where you have the lamps on your tray. So think of these things in that imagery. It's not accurate, it's not necessary to think of it in that way, but this is just an exercise to try to look at that framework and apply it to Shri. So now you have, they got the third part really well, like the Chalsati, we deliberately left that out because it's already been talked about so much in the lie yesterday, so we felt we need to emphasize it, but you guys should have talked about Chal Nirali is also Guna. So group 2, 3, 4, you already have an extra group to look for. Group 2. Let's do second pada. Can you first read it and then we can do the third one.
हर भगत की जात पात है भगत हर के नाम सुनाने नाम हर भगत करे पिछो आप गवावे जिन गुण अवगुण पछाणे राम गुण अवगुण पछाणे हर नाम वखाणे बह भगत मीठी लागी आंदन भगत करे दिन राती कर ही मैं बैरागी भगत भक्ति राते सदा मन निर्मल हर ज्यों देखे सदा नाले नानक से भगत हर के दर साचे अंतिम नाम माने. So the first one, हर भगत करे विचार आप विचों आप इन अनगुण नाम पछाने नाम. So first one is kind of it's like kind of equality, wherein the Bhagats quality to merge himself with the pyramid lord and be in unity with like being connected to him all the time. And the second one is the second one is like kind of getting rid of ego.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Are you done? Okay. Does anybody else see any other thing in this pada that they want to add to what Group 2 already said? Does anybody know what the word Vairag means?
Singh.
Karhi mein Vairagi.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They kind of adopt that state of Vairag through their nirmal actions.
Could you explain what Vairag is?
Yeah.
Vairag is it has a sense of you eradicating all your ego as well. Basically, you're actually completely in a Gurmukh state where you're not concerning yourself with too much that's going around in the Maya of the world. You're in the Bhakti of life.
Yeah, so leaving everything behind, and that was one of those qualities we talked about, which was where is completely separate yourself, Atam Niveda. So Vairagi is referring to this kind of bhakti. Okay, so I'll go on to Group 3 because we don't have a
मनमुख भगत करे सतगुरु बिन सतगुरु भगत ना होई राम हमें माया रोग व्यापे मर जन्म दुख होई राम मर जन्म दुख होई दूजा भाई पर जो होई बिन गुर तत न जानिया भगत विपुना सब जग भरमिया अंत गया पछतानिया कोट म देख न पछाणिया हर नामा सच सोई नानक काम मिलै वडियाई दूजा भाई पत होई.
So we found 4 kinds of bhakti in this stanza. The overall theme is Das and Atam Nivedan. Bina Satputam bhakti nahi honi. Te Guru nu pachhana bhi hai. And the first book talks about how without Satguru there is no bhakti. So that is sort of the anti-Sravan quality of Bhagat. So is karke Sravanadi quality which mentioned here. And then second last book talks about Kod Malik na pachhana har nama sasoi. So मैंने वो नाम भी देखा है सिमरन की भी quality है which लगी है. So those 4 types of bhakti, and then the 2 things we saw that weren't in the list. The first one was Aumay Maya Rog Vyape. So Maya da Rog jada hai wo list mention is isko Maya bhi he doesn't get it close to Maya. And the second thing we thought was first Pachanandi got that we have to realize that Bhagat has to realize that there is a God, and then he has to go about identifying the true one and looking at that place and following it.
Good job. Look forward.
भक्त के कर कार साचा हरबल सदा खाने राम भगत खजाना आपे दिया काल कंटक मार समाने राम काल कंटक मार समाने हरमन भाने नाम निदान सब पाया सदा अखट कदे नन खुटे हर दिया सैर सुभाया अर्जन उच्चै सदी उच्चै गुर के शब्द सहाया नानक आपे बख्श मिलाए जुग जुग सोभा पाया.
So Das will share the meaning of the Shabad from a little different perspective, and then throw some light on the points we discussed as a team here. So the Shabad is by Shri Guru Amardas Sahib Ji, 3rd Guru Sahib. Now imagine being next to Guru Amardas Sahib Ji in his, I mean he's always there, but in his formal physical time, when Guru Amardas Sahib Ji at the age of 72, he goes to Guru, correct the age if I'm wrong, finds Guru Angad Dev Ji and starts serving Guru Angad Dev Ji as his Lord. And they're doing seva. Sorry?
You started serving him when he was 60. You became Guru at 72.
72? Okay, thank you. And then until the age of 84.
96. No, 84.
He was 84. 72 he ran, 84 he served.
I thought it was 60 or 72.
Yeah.
I thought it was 60.
So basically, Guru Amardas Sahib Ji served.
Who cares? Okay. We're being geeks, sorry.
No, we should find the right numbers. So Guru Amardas Sahib Ji serves Guru Angad Dev Ji with his heart and soul for 12 years. And when Guru Amardas Sahib Ji is saying the Shabad out, imagine saying the Shabad for Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji. Guru Amardas Sahib Ji saying the Shabad out for Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji. Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji in his heart or in his home, the truth settled. Karaj Sacha Hargun Sada Vakhane Ram. So Guru Amardas Sahib Ji is saying that Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji he's been blessed by Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, and Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji is always singing the praises of Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. Bhagti Khajana Ape Diya Kaal Kanto Ko Mare Samane Ram. The devotion, the blessing of devotion given to Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji was given by Guru Nanak Dev Ji himself. And the rope of death was of course cut off. And then once the death is out of the picture, Har Mane Pane, Naam Har Mane Pane, and again, Hari, the Lord, Unanu vi Kal Kantak Mari Samane Har Mane Pane. So once the news of death was cut off, Har Mane Pane, so Hari, Vaheguru Ji, Hari, Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji ਦੇ ਮਨ ਨੂੰ Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਨ, ਚੰਗੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਹਨ. ਨਾਮ ਨਿਧਾਨ ਸੱਚ ਪਾਇਆ ਤੇ Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji ਨੇ ਨਾਮ ਖਜ਼ਾਨਾ, the treasure they obtained from Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji from his service. sada photo kade na nikutta hai. So Guru Amardas Sahib Ji was always done seva of Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji and has seen him as his role model leader. Guru says this blessing of devotion and worship that Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji has received from Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji is something that doesn't finish. Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji is always remembering Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji and is just in that forever love, and this has been witnessed by Guru Amardas Sahib Ji. Hadiya Sahaj Supaya, and this has been given in an instant without effort by Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, bestowed on Guru Angad Dev Ji. Harjan Uche Sadi Uche. Harjan Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji is the most exalted, and Sadi Uche will forever remain exalted. Gurka Sabad Sahaya, not sure what Sahaya means. They are adorned with the words of Guru Shabad. Nanak Ape Baka se milaye joge joge sobha paya. So Guru Amardas Sahib Ji says that with the blessings of the Lord Himself, with the blessings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Himself, Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji's missing qualities were forgiven, and they both merged as one. And Jogi Jo Soga Paya, so Ade Satya, Jugga Ade Satya, so for all the coming times.
Let's move on to the categories.
Sure, yeah. Glorified, they'll remain glorified. So the qualities that in the Shabad which were not present in the list, am I also covering the quality which were present?
Just to
It's Bhagats connected to the Gur Shabad, that was one of the things that were missing. And second one that we didn't find was the top down, so the blessing is top down, as we found
from the Guru towards the.
Sorry? Like the list that we saw previously, it was like as if the Bhagats, so Bhagats are making all the effort, but this Shabad talks about it being top down.
Yes, that's kind of a good tool.
Yeah, and they rise above death, humility, and then the devotion has no limit, and they are forever exalted and glorified.
Thank you. So this exercise was a resounding success. Because even though I say it myself, the point is that we need to, when we are reading Gurbani, we just don't stick to the translation that we see, and we try to apply wherever we're coming from. So PG did such a good job. We use our past experiences, we listen to everybody else that we're sitting around. We look at other religious frameworks, and that helps us actually see what is the deeper meaning of those words. And that is how we can better connect with Gurmat. And that's why I call this a resounding success, even though everybody looks miserable. Can I do the I am third joke again? Anyway, just quickly, we have a couple more slides. So there's a question that do we really need Bhakti? If our interest is to just connect with Vaheguru, do we need to really do all of this stuff? And the same question, this is Bhai Jeta said, he was staying with Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji at a time, and on a walk he asked him, that you say that it's okay, like if you have the Gyan, what is the actual game of Bhakti? So this talk, again I'm saying everything comes around, it connects.
But this can ask Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji.
Yeah.
If I have knowledge of Vaheguru, if I have Gyan of Vaheguru, what's the point of having Bhakti? Isn't that enough? So you guys will want to pay attention to Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji's answer.
Yeah. So again, this is a very academic thing. It's if we just stick to the academic stuff, that's how I understand it. PG said if we have knowledge of Vaheguru, that's the same thing. So what is the actual need for all this devotion stuff, all this bending over and everything? And Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji says, "Gyan Bhagati bina shobha nahi paavda pingla hai." that there is no grace or splendor in knowledge without bhakti, that without bhakti this knowledge is crippled. And then he gives this really nice example that Guru Har Gobind Sahib is saying this, that ghee, this is for people who don't know, it's clarified butter.
You should use the proper word, gyo.
Pure desi ki nanak brand na, clarified butter, khalas kyo can be, khalas is pure. If you have kyo directly, just kyo, as Guru Har Gobind Sahib is saying this, it has 4 side effects. One is that your throat, it just feels like bitter, or it feels like it's sticky, and it's what is that word? Fikka. Yeah, thoda muh fikka ho jata hai. Then it says that you get you know what balgam is, guys? Basically mucus. You get mucus. Your chest gets heavy. Your stomach hurts, and the 4th most important thing is that you get loose motions. That's what Guru Har Gobind Sahib said. So he was not afraid to use the word. And that's what knowledge is, like just eating desi ghee without putting sugar. But if you do put sugar in kyo, it makes your throat sweet. It's good for you. It makes your body warm, and you do not get loose motions. This was his answer. So I really like this thing. And again, everything connects. I've been coughing all week, and I wish I had some mitha and some kyo. So if you guys have some, this is a picture of somebody coughing. And this is from Mani Singh's puzzle. I messed up the order of these things. And now we come to the end.
We should. So just to wrap up very quickly, if we look at the historical Bhagats, they did something that was very unique. And it sounds weird to say it, but they had jobs. And having jobs was revolutionary. And it was revolutionary because before that time in South Asia, and in many other religious traditions, if you're spiritual, you don't have a job. Other people take care of you. And I wanted to thank Ujjwal Singh for correcting me. Bhagat Namdev was the printer of cloth, calico printer they call it in English. So I was wrong on that account. Bhagat Kabirji was the weaver. Bhagat Ravadas was a tanner, making leather goods. So the majority of the Bhagats had jobs. The couple that didn't was because they were really wealthy and they gave away their money and did seva instead. And so we see that this is also a model, even though these are pre-Guru personalities, a model for what real bhakti looks like. So for these individuals, they have followers. Like people in their own time respected them. And we can make a better example of the Guru Sahibs. Guru Nanak Sahib came back to Kartarpur Sahib, and he had a whole community of people that wouldn't have minded even for an instant if Guru Sahib just chilled, laid back, sat on a manja, and people just took care of him. And yet, for the last 20 some years of his life, Guru Nanak Sahib went out and worked in the fields every day. Or, I don't know farming very well, whatever. I'm sure they don't go every day, but whenever farming needs to be done. And Guru Nanak Sahib never once took money from the Sangha. And that was a very important tradition carried through the first 5 Gurus until the later Gurus adopted the role of an emperor and styled themselves as kings. But Guru Arjan Sahib Ji built beautiful Harmandir Sahib in the Sarovar, but him and Mata Ganga Ji would go to the market and weave baskets. And that's where they would get the money for their food. They wouldn't eat in the langar themselves. The langar, from the money that was given to them when they would be sitting on the takkat. Though in Harmandir Sahib, of course, Guru Granth Sahib Ji was on the takkat, not Guru Arjan Sahib Ji. So the point being that working is not actually a negative, it is a positive because it connects you to the world and it allows you to then go to the next step, which is a Sikhi ideal of Shakti. If you are not a part of society, then you don't care about society, which means you're not making social change, you're not pushing for it, and this has to go hand in hand with Bhakti. So even us having jobs and talking about Vaheguru is a revolutionary act, according to 5,000 years of South Asian history. So be happy that you work, that you're part of a tradition that says that having a family, having partners, having a job, being a part of a community is an important part of being a human being. It's a really beautiful gift that the Gurus have given us. And it leads to activism. Because it's very hard to be an activist when you don't have things that you care about. I think, is that it? Are we done?
We have 2 minutes, we can continue.
No, I think we've had enough jokes. But if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, questions.
Just to wrap up though, before the questions, what we're talking about here today is Bhagati has many different forms, but in the end, it's about building a relationship with Vaheguru Sahib Ji that's based on certain key criteria, which is nimrata, but also friendship. Loving devotion, but also support. So there's a balance there. There's an interchange, and that's what a relationship is. The relationship is not one way. That's a beautiful part of it. Vaheguru Sahib Ji is also giving back to the Bhagat as well. And that's why those Shabads are so important, Namdev Muklaya. That Guru Vaheguru Sahib Ji cared for Bhagat Namdev. He saved him from the elephant. He saved Bhagat Kabir Ji from the river. He saved Bhagat Prahlad from the Narsingh. He saved Bhagat, I guess Bhagat Guru didn't need saving, but so all these people were saved. The idea being that Vaheguru is there for you when you're in the state of loving devotion.
Hello? I have 2 questions, both of them are very different. My first question is, I'm a bit confused because I have seen pictures and videos of people doing arati inside the Gurdwara to Guruji. And, well, I read they have Malayalam and some bibliographies, and today is in the arati is not like the canto and the thingy that you do in front of the self-meditation and self-awareness of everything. So,
Do you want to do your second question? We'll answer them together. Your second, you can ask your second
my
question.
second question is, if the Bhagats are in Sri Guru Granth Sahib, is not considered also like Guru, like altogether? Like the Guru's Gurmaster, or is like we just them separate, or?
Because we're short on time, we'll try to answer them quickly. So the first one about Arati in the Gurdwara, the Panthic standard is that Arati is loving devotion, as it is in Guru Granth Sahib Ji described. There are certain groups in the Panth, I know the Hang Singhs, for example, they do Arati. And without criticizing different groups in the Panth for their Maryada, which is something we should try to avoid, they might have a logical reason in their minds for doing that, and that's okay. I think diversity in the community in general is okay as long as it falls within certain norms. It's not the worst thing in the world, and it's also not something that I think all Sikhs need to do either. It's definitely a more Hindu thing. There's no doubt about that. It's a Hindu practice that for whatever reason has become the norm in certain groups. But it's not, nor has it ever been a Panthic norm. The second thing is that we're not a tradition of black and white or like categories. So Guru Granth Sahib Ji has the writing of 11 Bhagats, 3 Gursikhs, and 13 Bhagats and 2 Shikhs. So their writing is to us Guru. Is the individual Guru? No, because the Bani flowed through them. They were the conduit for Turki Bani. So the Guru Granth Sahib Ji itself is higher than even the 10 historical Gurus. We see how the Guru Arjan Sahib Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji treated Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Guru Arjan Sahib Ji slept on a mat below Guru Granth Sahib Ji, after Guru Sahib was made, after Granth Sahib Ji was made. And that was before he was given Gurgati even, So the respect that the Shabad Guru has is very high. And if we were to meet Kabir Ji, it's a kind of nonsensical because there's no chance. But if we were to meet Kabir Ji, we would of course give them a lot of respect, but we wouldn't be bowing down to them because they are not our Guru.
Okay, that's pretty much my question.
Yeah, so there is a difference between a Bhagat and a Guru. And the easiest way to describe it is that a Bhagat is gold, but the Guru is potash. A Bhagat can show us the way, a Bhagat can be a light, but the Guru is the eternal flame. The Guru has a transformative power. They can make us Janamanas Devte Kiye. That's what the Guru has the power to do. A Bhagat doesn't have that power, but a Bhagat can help us on that path. Yeah. Any other questions? Shall we wrap up? Hanji, the other thing?
Can we get the 2 jokes?
The other joke? Well, you can ask anything afterwards. Okay?
So I want to add.
Hanji Benji.
Just something on that Bhagat Guru thing. I think one way to look at it too for like us is we can aspire to be a Bhagat, but we could never aspire to be a Guru, right? Like we want to pattern our life after that of like absolute devotion. We would never really try and think we could somehow attain Gurusha.
But we want to become Guru-like as much as possible.
Right, which
Yes.
would be like
But
Bhakti.
we can never become Guru, yes.
Right.
Unless, and this is for human beings, as a whole, as a plant, we become Guru.
Wait, isn't there like a line in Gurmani though, like a Sikh Guru Sikh hai, Guru Krishna?
Remember that the ultimate step of the Bhakti of a Sikh in 9 historical norms was that the Sikh became the Guru. And Bhava Gobind Singh, so the Guru also becomes a Sikh as well, right? Each Guru at the end of their life became a Sikh when they bowed down to the next Guru. So the relationship between Guru and Sikh is very close, and it's one where the roles are reversed at times.
I just wanted to add to Bhagat and the Guru. The way I look at it is that the Bhagats wrote a lot of Bani. Not all of it is included in the Guru Granth Sahib, even though the Gurus knew it existed. And for us, it's always been Bani, Guru hai Bani. It is the words that actually mattered and that were divinely inspired that have been included in Guru Granth Sahib. So even, the example of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Santbir Ji gave, that even after he passed on his Guruship, he is not Guru anymore. So we are not here to worship people or individuals. We are only here to worship the divine and the people or the light that takes us towards the divine. For the Aarti question, I wanted to just add that the problem that the Panth sees with the physical act of using lamps and light is that it becomes a form of idol worship. Our Guru is a set of teachings, and it's not something that's supposed to be just kept decorated and nicely in a platform and we just go and look at it. It's something that we are supposed to read and imbibe. The qualities are that need to be imbibed in our lives. So that is why the problem of the practice of the physical act of Aarti becomes problematic, because then it leads to just worshipping a piece of paper or a book rather than actually being something that everybody reads every day.
And if people can counter very quickly about the Ramale and all those things that we use for Guru Granth Sahib Ji, remember that those are not idol worshipping things, those are sovereign things. Those are things associated with kingship or queenship with an emperor. So the way that we treat Guru Granth Sahib Ji is not how Hindus treat idols, it's how people used to treat emperors. And the way we treat Guru Granth Sahib Ji is where we derive our pride as the good type of pride, as a Khalsa, our sovereignty. So there's a very big difference between the way an idol is treated and the way a king or a queen is treated. Okay? Was that Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.